However, when you have a large group of black men willing to leave the country, leave the black community, and leave you alone to go be with other groups that they have no idea about their cultures, Philippines, Dominican Republic, all over the Caribbean and South America, these individuals, these are not the Pookies and the Ray Rays that you don't like. These are not these are the individuals that have resources and education and are able to go out and build in the black community, but they don't want to deal with the mindset. It's not about having a traditional woman. Nobody cares about a traditional woman. You just want a woman that you can work with, that you can be with, and it's not going to have these expectations that are unbelievable.
Black Men with Passport is an inspiring movement that aims to encourage and empower black men to explore the world and broaden their horizons through travel. In a society where there are often barriers and stereotypes facing black men, this movement seeks to break down those walls and showcase the incredible experiences and opportunities that travel can offer. The idea behind Black Men with Passport is to challenge the limiting narrative that black men are only confined to certain spaces or activities. By highlighting the stories and journeys of black men who have traveled to various parts of the world, this movement aims to redefine what it means to be a black man in today's world. Through social media platforms and in-person events, Black Men with Passport shares the stories and experiences of black men who have embarked on travel adventures. These stories not only serve as sources of inspiration and empowerment, but also offer valuable insights and tips for other black men who may be curious about exploring new destinations. By showcasing the diversity of experiences, cultures, and people encountered during their travels, Black Men with Passport hopes to foster understanding and acceptance among different communities. It also aims to encourage dialogue and promote the idea that everyone, regardless of their background, has the ability to navigate the world and embrace new experiences. This movement seeks to highlight the individual journeys of black men who have broken free from societal constraints and discovered the beauty and richness that travel has to offer. By doing so, Black Men with Passport hopes to inspire other black men to step out of their comfort zones, challenge stereotypes, and explore the world with an open mind and a sense of adventure.
They just work like most of the month, and then they take their vacations. Some have families, homes in other countries.
Right.
So this ain't new. And then they actually talked about men going to Brazil back in 2005 in Essence magazine. This ain't new at all. Right. Now women paying attention to it now, because now they're announcing it. Now these women are looking up like, oh wait, I ain't dating. Because when I'm out and about, man, I talk to women. I've talked to young women of all races. You got a boyfriend? They'd be like, no. Many men are just saying, fuck this shit.
Yeah, and a lot of it, Rom, it goes back to.
I'm cursing. I'm sorry, man.
No, you're right, brother. It goes back to something called needs driving behaviors. Sister Bashir said, from a woman's perspective, I agree because I understand the assignment. My husband has surprised me with something I wanted to be a sewing machine or a KitchenAid heavy-duty stand mixer, no doubt, sis. And that sister is a remnant sister. She's rare. And that's why I said, man, I've been with my wife for 20 years, but if I did it again, man, I'm going overseas, brother. I ain't dealing with no more modern women. I know what I want, and I'm not going to compromise. But, you talked about something, Rom, about men being frustrated. And I was in a movie with Al Grease. Do you know who Al Grease is, man?
Yeah. That was the gentleman who... he was part of that movement, Men Going to Brazil. He did a movie about it.
Right. And so this is the last movie that he did. It's a little short clip, and he's talking about this whole tape.
When you date a woman and she may be a potential wife, it's a competition thing all the way. I can't take it no more.
They feel propped up because they feel more beholden to the government. And then their man comes second. That's why they figure that they're strong, independent, don't need no man, because they have the government.
Because the men are failing us, to be honest. Guys thinking about themselves, and they'll think about you after you react.
You don't hear anything about being good wives and all this other stuff. What you hear is you strong and you independent. You can do it on your own. You got black girl magic, black girl rock, but you ain't said nothing about black family.
My mother is like what they consider to be the strong black woman. I feel like I projected that onto the guys that I dated.
Ladies have no idea how stiff their competition really is. You have no clue how black men are viewed in the rest of the world. We are the #1 most sexually desired man on the face of this planet.
They would call Jesus Dusty if he was here living in America because of the gross narcissism that a lot of our women have.
Rom, it goes back to needs driving behaviors. I was in the movie about a year or two ago with Al Grease called Frustrated 3. But you know, I use you, Rom, and I gave you credit for it because I don't like to steal people's talking points. But you came up with a word called the acculturated prostitute, and I thought it was powerful. And I'm going to clip this because that's a very powerful point of contention. I hear so many men say, oh, men are going overseas to trick. But I'm like, you're tricking over here. You're just an unconscious trick. And when you constantly take a woman to dinner dates, you're just practicing acculturated prostitution, in my opinion. You educate me if I'm wrong. But if you're dating a woman with the intentions of getting some intimacy, and you got to go on so many dates in advance when she's giving it free to other men, then you are an acculturated, you're practicing acculturated prostitution. And or you're an acculturated trick. What do you say about that? Because I hear the nonsense about, well, they're going down the trick. You're tricking here in America. You just don't know you're doing it. But go ahead, brother.
Well, first of all, let me give that term actually to a mentor of mine who gets deep into it, Master Yao and Yamache Morris. He came up with that term, acculturated prostitute.
Okay.
And then, another YouTube content creator, Pimp God, he just called them acceptable hoes.
Okay, all right.
And it is a problem because you got a lot of women, if a woman is saying, they basically are sex traders. An acculturated prostitute is a sex trader. They're saying, hey, you can have sex, or they give the promise of sex.
Right.
If you give me something, like you can have an acculturated prostitute, she on a job. She see a manager looking at her a certain way. She may let him fill her up or something, but she better get a good promotion or, good evaluation.
Right.
I've been on jobs and women to say about a certain other woman say, yeah, she got that promotion on her knees. But that's acculturated prostitution.
That's acculturated prostitution, right.
Anytime women really trade in sex for money or resources or something, that's acculturated. Now, if the same women, if you say, look, I just want to sleep with you, $500, they'll slap you. They'll be offended. But if you say, well, I'm going to take you to this fancy restaurant. I'm going to spend like several $1,000s taking you to these places. The woman might sleep with him, for that. No other reason than that he paid for everything.
Right.
That's an acculturated prostitute. Anytime they bring money into it, that's an acculturated prostitute. Unfortunately, you got a lot of men. They think, well, you got to spend. It's like, no, you don't. If a woman wants you bad enough, it could be for free.
Right. I agree. I totally agree with you 100%. You're right. Yes,
and that's the thing. And when you say American men are tricks, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of women, they know it. They can have money themselves, but they know they going on what they call foodie dates. They know they don't have to buy food themselves. You got men who know some man's going to take them to dinner. So that's acculturated prostitution. Anytime. Basically, it's a socially acceptable form of hoeing, as long as the man don't give him money straight up for sex. And even then, here's the irony: a lot of times a woman might not necessarily have sex with him.
Right. And that's why I say when people try to shame men that travel and they try to encapsulate all men that travel as being tricks. Well, look, I mean, I don't care what a man do with his vows. That's between him and God. But my whole point is when you're taking women on these dinner dates like this whore, in my opinion, it's a form of acculturated prostitution.
It is.
Here's why men are check.
Sorry, go ahead, Rom. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it really is. People don't realize that. Anytime money come into the picture, that's acculturated. Like she won't date him except if he spends money. That's straight acculturated. Now, if she meet a guy and, she really want to get to know him, see, when women want to get to know a guy, they'll be like, they'll be like, let's meet at this park or something. They'll just talk, or let's do this. They might even pay themselves if they really want to get to know a guy. But if they say, well, like if they say they won't date a guy unless he's a professional or he's an attorney, he's a doctor. That's just another form of acculturated prostitution. When you get a lot of these IG women being flown out, that's acculturated prostitution. Anytime it's a trade for his money for her sex, it's acculturated. Shoot, even some marriages can be that way.
Yes, sir. Right. I've seen them in marriage counseling, man. And you know, I'm gonna ask you this question, Rom. Did modern dating create the passport bros? I know you talk about the global brothers from years, but it's gone to a whole nother level now. And so the whole concept is the 3 Ds of modern dating: drinks, dinner, and penis. But did modern women create the passport bros? I think they did. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they were already there, but it's gone to a whole other level now because a lot of guys they just tired.
Right.
They tired of just dealing with a lot of women. I mean, unless they just at the very tip top of the sexual hierarchy, and that's only a small percentage who got it like that. You're talking maybe 10 to 15% who just, they can just get whatever from the women, and the women like, yeah, but everybody else, hey, it's like, oh, I got to get to know you and everything. A lot of guys are saying, hold up, if I had to pay, why not just save some money, go to this other country where the women at least going to like make love to my mind. They're gonna be
right. Yes, sir. Right. Right.
And if I gotta pay, even if they paying for a woman overseas, they know they at least getting something for the money.
Right.
I mean, seriously. And like I said, I mean, I stick by, we were talking about Global Brothers about 2003, and they've been around, but like any underground movement, because it was very underground then. It's just not underground anymore. And it just got a name, because back then it didn't even have a name. Between me and my former mentor, rest his soul, we just came up with the name Global Brothers. But it wasn't national. We didn't have YouTube or anything back then. Passport Brothers, they were coming along. They've been here all along, really. It's just a name to them, but they've been doing it. Now other dudes catching on. And then you got gentlemen like Al Grease. I saw the first Frustrated. I was like, okay, yeah. Let's get, and I've known some men who were doing it back in the 2000s. They were traveling. They were like, fuck this. Because you get the women, they asking for this, and this. And the guys just give, they working hard. Let's be real. If a man working hard, he don't have time for any sass from some woman or anybody, really.
Yes, sir. Right.
He putting up with some stuff. And if he a black man, he probably putting up with about 100 microaggressions on his job.
Yes.
I mean, seriously. And then all we want is some peace, but then we can't even get peace. So we say, you know what? We're going to save our money. Because with the Global Brothers, these were professional men. They just didn't mess with women in the United States. They would just work hard. They could be dentists, attorneys, whatever. Then they would travel to someplace like Brazil or something. And just for peace. And they knew the deal. And, some of them, and let's be real, some of them might have paid for some stuff, but some of them would learn the language. I know some dudes, they learn the language of a culture, go in the countryside, shoot, maybe even get a wife or something. Yes. I heard about some dudes, they have like second wives in other countries, whatchamacallit.
Yes, sir. Right. No, right. And you mentored a lot of men, and I know you got boys. What do you tell your boys when it comes down to dating relationships and dealing with modern women? Because the world has changed, Rom, radically.
Oh, no, they only deal with them on their terms. Trust me.
Okay, talk about that, brother. Talk about it. Break it down.
No, they just deal with them on their terms. I mean, it's like the women coming like to them, they like, shoot, we only going to deal with them how we like. When they deal with their little girlfriends and stuff, I see who running stuff. So I'm like, okay, y'all getting something. Because even their mother like give them some game. I mean, like I said, I don't put anything out in public, but let's just say we get along great. People think we're still married and stuff, but it ain't like that. But then let's just say mistakes were made on both sides.
Right.
And she's actually realized what she had done. She's apologized for some things she did. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay, that's powerful, man. That's powerful. Shout out to my man, Soa C. Yeah, man. I told y'all to share this stream, man. I don't know if YouTube been suppressing my content, man. It should be 100, 200, 300 people. We got the OG of OGs, RomWills, in the house. Soa C say, what? At the Kosher Clinician guy at RomWills out here, I have to support this. Salute, good brothers. No doubt. I appreciate it, man. And that's a deal,
right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
You know, Rom, inflation can cause the collapse of a society if it's not intact. But also, hoflation is causing the collapse of relationships. If you go back down memory lane, man, go back down memory lane. You know, I'm sure you were probably a teenager in the 70s. What is the biggest difference you saw in women? Say it again.
Teenager in the 80s, but go ahead, man.
Okay, teenager, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry, man. So a teenager in the 80s. What was the biggest difference, Rom, that you saw in women in the 80s compared to now? Or maybe the 70s as a little boy.
I'm going to tell you what, just how I grew up. I saw a lot of stuff y'all seeing publicly now. They just hit it better. Mm-hmm. But the biggest difference is they realized that, you know, a man and woman needed to come together.
Right.
It was some real support. You didn't have like this whole like, oh, I'm an independent, oh, I'm a goddess, all that stuff. You didn't have all that. Men and women, regardless of the race, realized they needed to work with each other.
Right.
You know, and you could just talk, and you know, it was more of a natural beauty with them. It was more like, as long as you were just a hardworking man, you know, they didn't have the ego. The women didn't. And then the men were standing up more back then. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, what we have now, like I say, you still had everything you have now, but it was more contained. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, and it was more in their circles. And it could, for many women, men and women, it was just over there. Mm-hmm. You know, you didn't have this level of dysfunction with relationships. Relationships could last a few years, any relationship. Now you be good if you last 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah, if you last 3 months now, I mean, relationships, and this, you know, people will look at me, call me a dreamer, because I say, you know, you gave a term for it, we can find the remnants, but a lot of people say, nah. In 3 months, I'm being generous. There's a lot of people saying some stuff. There's a lot of dysfunction. There's a lot of single people now.
Right.
The biggest thing is you do have a lot of women who are on some masculine energy thing, want to be super independent, but then you got a lot of men who are being more in their feminine energy.
Yes, sir. I agree.
They're not doing their thing. So that's a problem. And, you know, society, I don't know. And see, you got a small percentage of men who, I'm going to be real, you got a small percentage of men, they benefited from it, but they all ain't good men.
Right.
I'm just going to be real with it. They benefited, they benefiting, but it's like they ain't guys trying to build families.
Right.
There's some men out there, players, and I try to give the good skills of a player. I ain't gonna lie, I try to give the good skills, but I already know what some of the bad ones are doing. I know some women been torn up by these guys. Like, you know, when I see these certain like shows on the internet or something, and the women acting funky towards the men, I was like, yeah, you got a demon lover in your future, and that ain't a good thing. Because one of the things I found is, and I even say this in a video, most men ain't trying to be player. Most men just really want a good woman. You know, most men just want a good woman. That's it. That's it. A good woman, a woman who's going to support their mission. And a lot of guys want to support what women trying to do, but women have to just recognize what that is. They got to recognize, look, it's actually in their best interest to support that man, because then he gonna make sure there's always a roof over their head. That's one thing where, like, when a woman truly submits to a man, and I say this to a group of women too, when a woman truly submits to a man, he has a responsibility. So it's not like he gonna be beat. In fact, when a woman is truly supporting a man, when a woman is truly in a man's boundary, he'll lay out a body. He'll lay out several bodies for her. He'll make sure a roof is over her head.
Yes, sir.
You know, I'm seriously, and I've told women that. I say, look, all you have to do is be women. Bring that energy, support that man, be like, yeah, baby, you can do this, stroke his ego. You know, the sex, have some real sex with him. Shoot him. A woman could raise a man to the stars if she supports him.
Yes, sir. I agree.
They got power, but see, they don't realize it. They trying to act like men and do all that stuff, negating their real power.
They negating their real power. Right. And I think I've heard in the past, I don't know. I know you talked about water seeking its own level. I know I've heard you say that. But then there's a concept between the sun and the moon. The moon reflects the power of the sun.
Oh, yeah.
When it's on its orbit and when it's in synchronicity, then you have perfect balance. The problem there, Rom, there's a lot of relationship turbulence. There's a lot of relationship entropy, and the relationship's dynamics are suffering, in my opinion, Rom, at an unprecedented time. I've never seen the world this bad before in my life. I've never seen relationships this bad before in my life.
It really is.
Right.
It is, man. Dude, I mean, you know, I try to be positive and empower the men, but I probably could put about 100 women in a room just from who I know on social media, all that, you know, Facebook friends, IG friends who don't have a man. It's scary. It's scary because I say, well, there's men out there. You know, some of the women are trying to say there's a shortage of men. It's like, no, there's a shortage of men that you actually want. There's plenty of men.
Right.
And then a lot of them got some trauma or something. And you got some legitimately good guys out there. Legitimate. Yes, they ain't trying to be players. You know, they just want one woman. You know, they want to support a woman. They want to protect and provide. But we got a situation now with everything happening. That's not happening.
Yeah.
And what needs to happen is the good men need to get with the remnant women.
Right.
But that's hard to find because,
it's
you
hard
know,
to find, man.
It really is, because the women who don't have sense be up there. They got the videos. They the ones doing these TikToks and everything. And the women, and you do have some women, especially some women who talking about how much they love black men. Okay, that's a few, but even then, you have to ask some of those women, okay, which black men? Because we can get into a whole other thing. It's like, do we gotta be fine? You know, certain height, fine, and all of that. Which ones you looking for? Because they there. And these women trying to talk about the men ain't this or that. And yeah, we have some men who are having some trouble, but then you have some men who, you know, they got their own homes. You know, they working. They trying to do right. They got good intentions towards the women. So, I mean, it's the role of relationships now. It'll get better, but it depends on when. Will it be in our lifetime?
I don't see it in our lifetime, Rob. I don't see it.
Okay.
I believe that it takes time to build the sustainability of a relationship. I think the struggle, Rom, in my opinion, that's what made black men and black women great, coming out of slavery, coming out of Jim Crow racism. We were great because of the struggle, but also we were great because we had a high level of faith in God. And I believe that men and women, they had a fear of God. The thing between women now, Rom, in my opinion, compared to women back then, those women were not only God-fearing, but they knew, in my opinion, they knew how to better regulate their emotions. They knew how to put their emotions aside for the greater good of the relationship.
Well, that was the black community in general. People don't realize.
Right.
Like now, there's always this complaint about ghetto culture, but used to be, because, you know, just being raised, like I said, I had a lot of fathers. We had a certain amount of behavior we had to, and that's really that's an even bigger issue, our behavior. You know, we used to like, there was a guy, he said it like, because, you know, you said spanking a lot, right? But it actually worked in the black community because we learned at an early age that there were consequences. We were actually more advanced psychologically. Like they studied us. They studied. They were like a bunch of books. They studied us. They were like, well, hold up. Yeah, we doing all this stuff, and we doing all this terrorism, all this stuff. But yeah, they actually had better behavior. But see, one of the things is we don't have it as a group like we used to. Used to be we had to carry ourselves. Now we can just be trifling now, the men and the women. And that's the thing. And you could say it's biblical. Some people will say, well, we don't have a church anymore. You can say 1,000 things.
Right.
But we don't have the same level of behavior. See, when we were coming out of slavery, we knew we had to stick together.
Yes, sir. Right. I totally agree. I agree.
We had to stick together. And see, now everybody thinking, oh, well, I'm free. I can do what I want. And, now you got adults acting like children. And then the children, they coming out of this, they say, well, I don't have to grow up either.
Right.
So it's like that's affecting relationships right there, because ultimately when people get married, they got to realize, you can have some lust, that's okay. But then it's a business, you sticking together. Because I remember when me and my buddy, man, we were 16. I always say 15, but my buddy had to be 16 to drive the car over there. We drove and we found this, went over the house of this and got this guy, and we were riding around with him. And he had been a contractor. He was an older brother. And he said, brothers, what's love? And we were like, well, it's this emotion and everything. He said, no. He said, love is tolerance. Love is acceptance. It's responsibility. It's forgiveness. He was giving us all this other stuff. And I went with that all life. Because one thing back in the day, the elders, man, when they spoke, we just listened.
You listen, right?
We listened. So this brother, he broke it down, and he didn't say none of that like, oh, you should got 5 big booty or anything like that. Right. He said, nah, love is tolerance. Love is responsibility. He's saying a lot of stuff, but I remembered that. But it was a different time, though. It was a different time. See, we knew we had to stick together. Now it's just like everybody, no matter what's happening, you got men and women don't realize, look, we have to get together. We built for it. It's in our blood.
It's in our blood, right.
Because I look at my channels, I got a couple other channels where I'm talking, deep thought in my money channel. But what gets the most attention is my car videos. Not even when I sit on the couch, but my car videos. But that's a bigger thing. Dudes want to connect with women. And women actually want to connect with men. But, there's a fight within them. And it's like, well, they've been told to be independent. But then they realize if they connect with a man, that's a unit right there.
Yes.
And that's a relationship. And when you're on a ship, you can only have one captain.
Yes, sir. Right.
So they might get on there, fight for a captain. And some of them will get a man who will follow along, but I've yet to meet a woman who actually liked that.
You're right.
I've yet to meet a woman who they'll start at first, but then that's when, always make that my bad joke, but that's when the man should double back, because then they'll run into that one man and say, go make me a sandwich, do all that. All of a sudden, they want to change up. I've seen the women come out in some women. I've seen they deal with that one guy who ain't playing that shit, and they just change up. But unfortunately, we don't have enough of those men. That's the major problem. That's my main mission, to build up those men.
Yeah. Well,
we need a critical mass of those men.
No, I agree with you 100%. But I think the greatest catalyst now, Rom, something I talked about earlier, is the negative socialization, the indoctrination. And it goes back to what Harriet Tubman said, Rom. She said, I could have freed a lot more if they did not already know that they were still slaves. When let me tell you something. I'll try to give men enlightenment and talk about the sovereignty that you talk about, and how you got a demand power relationship. They end up turning on me. So they've been slaves for so damn long. When you try to liberate them, they turn on you because they've been conditioned based on what I call relationship Stockholm syndrome. They've been conditioned to serve their woman. They've been conditioned to serve the slave master. And when you try to recalibrate that thought process, you become public enemy number one, which in my mind is a problem. What role did the sexual revolution play in modern dating, the death of chivalry?
Man, it played a big role, man. It freed them up. That's why I've talked about that several times. Man, the female gaze has been from all. Now it's free. Now, women, whatever, they can get on IG, TikTok, whatever, for YouTube, show whatever, say whatever, do whatever. That's the biggest thing. When women got freed, all of a sudden, instead of trying to build with a guy who might have had good intentions, they start chasing Mr. Goodbar.
Tell the audience who Mr. Goodbar is. I've heard about Mr. Goodbar.
I talk about that. That's the guy at the top of the sexual marketplace, and all they want him for is sex.
Right.
He could be broke, whatever, and stuff. And let me just say I know about that part, because my past wasn't even that. I ain't gonna say I had a sterling past, but the thing is, you got so many women chasing him, but see, Mr. Goodbar, he got so many women he ain't trying to sell. And he don't have to treat them right. But then, they want the good guy, the guy with good intentions, like a genuine good guy, genuine strong man. They think he going to wait, or they put him in a position where he might have to heal the damage done by Mr. Goodbar.
That's true.
So it's a jacked up situation, and it's free because they just jump in. They feel like they can have sex is everything.
You talk about something called a thunderbolt. I remember I heard you talk about that. That's an esoteric principle. And I talk about something called being ran through. Is there a correlation between the thunderbolt and ran through women in your opinion? Break it down.
Nah, thunderbolt just mean you had that lust for somebody, instant lust for an individual. And it came from Master Teacher BGS had talked about it, and they talked about it in the movie The Godfather.
Okay.
They talked about it in the movie The Godfather. So I didn't really come up with that. And being ran through, that's something different. Being ran through, just a woman who just had a lot of partners.
Right. You know what? Before there was Kevin Samuels, there was you, there was Tom Likas, there was Black Ram. What did Kevin Samuels' work mean to you, Rom, and him trying to bring Black people back together? Me personally. Yeah, go ahead.
First, may he rest in peace. But Kevin did what
we are in a generation of men.
All of Rom. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I apologize. I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, Kevin did what was needed. If you really look at what he was doing, he was letting women. He's being very truthful. Because he would deal with a lot of delusional ass women who would get on there and he'd just tell them straight up. Now they would say he's being mean, but I say no, he's being honest. He's telling the women, hey, you gotta change up. And that's why they really had a problem with him. Yeah, it's not necessarily thug juice though, man. It could be I've known some good bars who are professionals, clean cut looking ministers. So
Oh wow.
It can be a few thugs, but it's mainly like just guys that women want sexually and they use that power. So that's all it is. It could be. I know a woman who was dogged by a prominent doctor in this area.
Oh wow.
And I know who the doctor is. You see him, he older too. You wouldn't think it, but he got about 4 women. He's just straight dogging. So it's not always about being like a thug or something. You got some attorneys, doctors, CEOs, everything.
Right.
Good bar thing. But see, that's still a small group though.
So dating. So once again, Kevin Samuels meant a lot, but before there was Kevin, there was you, there was Black Ram, there was Tom Likas. As I said once before, me personally, I was never for bringing, and I'm just gonna be honest with you, I understood his mission was noble, but when those women celebrated that man's death,
that was wrong in itself because Kevin, he wasn't doing it. Everything he was doing wasn't out of like some evil. He just wanted some regular relationships, and he did what they really needed. They needed somebody who's going to be honest, not kissing their ass and telling them whatever.
Right.
I mean, because I faced that like for articles. Like I wrote an article. It was for the O'Shea Duke Jackson's website that's now defunct, unfortunately, the Negro Manosphere.
Negro Manosphere, right.
Talking about women raising the men that they're complaining about. And that it went viral twice. Because I said you get women, because I actually know some young girls, they getting their sons and they fixing them up, got them braided, wearing, got them got their fit, wearing that fly clothing. And I'm like, you raising a player.
Right.
Seriously, and I've been seeing that since the 90s and stuff. Be in DC, see some woman, she looking like a prostitute pushing her baby in that carriage and stuff. She raising a future player. And that man, he shoot. Let's be real, especially in the black community. You get some guys, you get the mothers, fix them up, have all that, have them looking all cute. They grow up that way. They expect the women to keep supporting.
Right.
They ain't showing them how to be men, and it was like, shoot. And so I wrote that article. They got mad. Got some. Even one of my own cousins got pissed at. I was like, yeah, because I know how you raising someone. Hey, I know what some of my other cousins, the same thing. A lot of women, they got to realize, a lot of women support the bad guys one way or the other.
Right. But my only point, and you're correct, Kevin was definitely doing things out of nobility and trying to do things for the common good.
Kevin was trying. Look, let me tell you what with Kevin. Kevin was saying the stuff because people still playing his videos and stuff.
Yes, sir. Right.
He was just telling the women some honest shit. He was like, you're average. You don't expect to get this man. Why would this man put up with this shit that you asking for? Because all you have to do is look at the women. You got women with like 4 kids and stuff, but they want a guy to have no kids. They want to meet a guy who has no kids himself.
Right.
Who's gonna put her first, or they looking for a guy making 6 figures, no matter how broke they are, or they thinking they're a dime, and most men looking at them like they're 3. He was just being honest, and these women needed to hear that. That's the thing. A lot of guys got to stop putting the women on the pedestal. If they're gonna act trifling, just let them know.
Right. But I even though his works were noble, Rom, in my opinion, I wasn't for bringing men coming back dealing with women in the West because, in my opinion, I felt like they didn't offer anything. What are you getting? You can ram through women with kids by multiple men and a lot of trauma and damage. My logic would have been for men to travel abroad to get better women that are traditional. Not saying women overseas are perfect; those women got their issues too. But like you were saying, I agree with you. I think you can find a better quality woman on the countryside or in a province where the religious, like in an Islamic country or where faith is important and traditionalism. But what are you coming back to? What are you coming back to, Ron? Because I don't want no woman that got kids by multiple men and had a lot of penises. I just don't. And she might be a decent woman, but I know what my standard is. My sovereignty as a man, that goes against my mental dictate. I can never deal with that.
No, I should. And here's the thing. I can understand exactly where you're coming from. And that's a fair thing. Why even deal with it? One thing, Kevin, he was still trying to help. And, that was his thing. Somebody else come up with something different, So I respect that. And you got a very good point.
Right.
Because I've seen too many good guys trying to like legitimately good, not like dorky or anything like that, or they get called corny by the women or something. They ain't doing all that great stuff. So they just tired. They just say, if you want to travel, you want to get a right woman, wherever you got to do. Whether you find them next door or you find them like in another country. And every man who's righteous needs that.
Right.
Man needs a woman. A man needs a woman. And not just for sex either. But you got to find a cooperative woman.
Yes.
One who's in cooperation to your operation.
Yes, sir. I like that. Right. No, I totally agree. A woman is in mission, like you said, to your mission. Let me show you something real quick. I know you got to go in a few minutes. I don't want to hold you up, and I respect your time. I want to show you something real quick, Ron. Minnie St. Alexander wrote a book called The White Man's Whore. And then she was supposed to do a show with me called Why Have Dating Been Reduced to Dinner, Drinks, and Penis? Tell me what you think about what she said here. I think a lot of it, in my opinion, is predicated in trauma. But hold tight if I can pull it up. Hold tight. Let me pull this up. Hold tight.
Their mission, even unknowing to them, is to destroy as many women as possible. These men who hate women. Their mission, even unknowing to them, is to destroy as many women as possible. These men might have been hurt once by a woman, maybe even 3 times by women. And their mission is to destroy every woman they meet emotionally. Now, these men, they're very cunning and very manipulative. The love bombing stage is wonderful. They will act like they are the perfect men or perfect man for that woman. But they are so hurt inside. They're so damaged inside. And they cannot tell you any stories of women that they have encounters with that are healthy. Why? Because hurt people hurt people. They love having sex with women. They love women's company. But deep down inside, they hurt so much because what that one woman did or the two women did, that they make every woman after that pay for it. And guess what? Hurt people hurt people. So that good woman standing in front of this broken man, getting hurt, she has two choices after the relationship is over. Either she can go to the next man and hurt him, or either she can take a break and heal herself and wait for a real man, a man that really knows her needs to come and make something beautiful with her. So the past week or so.
What do you say about that, Ron? Shout out to Ray Johnson for being a new member. Shout out to brother Ray Johnson's a new member. What do you
Here's
say
the
about
issue
that,
with that. Here's the issue with that. She's correct, but what we have is a problem, and I've talked about it in my book. Basically, women going for a small percentage of men.
Right.
And that's the problem. They look,
Right.
first of all, it ain't the men are there.
Right.
The men are around. But if a woman go into some place and there's 100 men, she only sees 5 of them. Those are the men who are dogging. They're only going for a small percentage. They're overlooking a good man who's going to treat them right, who's healthy himself enough to treat her right. And that's the real issue. They, like I talk about select and non-select. All the select guys are not righteous.
That's true.
And they will deal with that guy. They'll deal with that guy because he a doctor or he an attorney or he look good to him. He cute. He fun. Everything.
Right.
They looking for. They focus on, and they so focused on that small percentage of men. They ain't thinking about the 5 good men that didn't match whatever their inner trauma. What I would tell these women is they really need to they need to ask themselves why they chasing a play.
Right.
And it could be several reasons. Their fathers could have been players. Why they chasing that man who might actually be, why they passing by the man who might actually be good for them. That's a major issue. Seriously, if you real, that's the major issue. You got a bunch of women who want a small percentage of men.
Right.
And that's where the issue is. You got to select and non-select.
The select and non-select, right. And Ron, I've heard you talk about, I remember Rollo Tomasi talked about it. He talked about hypergamy. But Ron, I created a concept to parrot that. One is called carnal hypergamy. One is called kosher hypergamy. I'm going to break it down. Carnal hypergamy is when a woman is exploited in her pursuits because her nature is carnal, no different than a lick. When you think about a lick seeks to destroy or more or less prey on a man. That woman is practicing carnal hypergamy. But a woman that practices kosher hypergamy, Ron, is probably consistent with women of yesteryear, like your grandmother, your great-grandmother, and your mom. Those women were righteous women. And their nature was to get a man that was a good provider, but they never did it, Ron, to the state of exploitation. That's kosher hypergamy. One is exploitative, which is predicated in the flesh. The word carnal comes from the word carne, which is flesh. And a woman that practices carnal hypergamy often causes a man to be in a lot of despair. But kosher hypergamy is fit, it's proper, it's about cooperation, it's about respect, and it's about the sustainability of relationships. What do you say about that?
No, I agree with you. It's something that you really need to get out there.
Right.
Because that's the problem. That's one of the problems. I still maintain like when that woman was talking, she's probably only talking about what I would ask women is how many good men have you passed by?
Right.
Off of some bull. Maybe his shoes didn't look right. Maybe like those balloon pop shows. And I watch how these women will reject a man and he'd be off his clothes or something. It's like, how many, I would seriously ask a group of women, I would ask them, how many of y'all have rejected a good man off of something stupid?
Right.
And that's a major issue. Because I guarantee when they talk about that player, that demon lover, it's like, why y'all chasing me? I put them in that category.
Right.
How many good men have you walked past? And that's a major issue. A lot of women are walking past viable men who, quite frankly, will treat them better, probably make love to them better, and everything. Probably support whatever they are, as long as they supporting that man. A lot of women have done that. A lot of women have said that. I'm not even making that up. A lot of women have said that, they've told other women they need to get past that trauma and stop overlooking some of these good guys out here. There's plenty of good guys. Not every guy,
right?
But there's enough. There's enough. But see, they focus, that woman and women like her, guaranteed they only focus on a small percentage of men.
Right. And I think a lot of it, Rom, too, is overgeneralization, which is a thinking or disorder. You're correct, 100% correct. I promise you, the men she dated were higher tier men. And actually, her and I had the conversation. Higher tier men with money and status. And so what they do, they equivocate those men with general men or the average guy. What would you say about that?
I agree with you. They shouldn't, though. And that's the problem. They shouldn't. They looking at a small percentage, but then they ignoring the bigger pool of men. But see, what you have is you have that pool of good men, that bums, that they got money, obviously, if they can travel. They saying, we tired of this.
Right.
We tired, and that select, non-select thing, that's been at least since the 70s. It just grew. It's gotten worse.
It's gotten worse. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's gotten worse during this time. It used to be, I say a good quarter of men might have been select. Now I put it down at about 15%. And all of them ain't good guys.
Right.
Because I guarantee for all the stuff they say, don't mess with that guy. He'll hurt you. Unless she does something consciously about it, she's going to go to the next guy who got the same personality traits.
Right. No, I totally agree. I'm going to play this clip. I know you got to go. I don't want to hold you up. Let me finish playing this a little bit, and I'm going to let you go. And I appreciate your time and you being generous with your knowledge. Hold tight.
There has been this video that's going viral about a black female therapist who was basically telling black men, y'all need therapy. Y'all do need therapy. And just to make a long story short, her name got leaked. She lost her job. Now, I am not this kind of a black woman where if I see something that I don't agree with, that a black woman, if she behaves a certain way or says a certain thing, I'm going to agree with it. I'm not. The delivery of this therapist on her first video that got her in trouble, her delivery was really horrible. She was cussing, calling black men names, and I think sometimes as black women, sometimes we get super frustrated with these black men. So I saw her frustration, but her being a professional and putting her professional title out there, she should have backed it up a little bit and simply said, I'm a professional, I have the documentation, y'all need therapy, I've been working with y'all for years, y'all need therapy. But she didn't do that. Her mistake. But her message was, black men, knock knock, black men, something ain't right with y'all. Please go to therapy. Now, again, talking about black women, her name got leaked because this black woman, backstabber, leaked her name in an article. And that led to black men bombarding her place of employment by calling on the phone, bombarding the phones with phone calls, and getting her fired for her trying to help.
Well, this was a TikTok therapist, Rom, and that woman wasn't trying to help black men. She was trying to berate them. She was trying to mommy black men. It was a TikTok therapist, and I'll say this as a licensed therapist myself. Some therapists have unresolved pathologies to the point, Rom, they use other people to more or less feed their narcissistic supply. Some therapists become professionals because they want to understand their pain. So they became therapists from a duality perspective, one, to understand themselves, but also to help heal others. But here's the problem with that. If a person is dealing with an undiagnosed personality disorder, this is what'll happen, Rom. They'll use that person, especially if they're borderline or narcissistic, to feed their supply. And it becomes problematic because they're constantly always looking for a supply. And when that person don't give them a supply, then they have what's called a narcissistic rage. And what it does, it makes the profession look bad because people will start saying, well, all therapists are bad, therapists are quacks, and therapists just want money. But What did you think about what she said before I let you go? And what did you get from this conversation? Thank you, man, once again, for being gracious with your time, man. I really appreciate it, brother.
First, from what she said, it's too much, even with the therapist. A lot of times, that's something we really need to look at. There's a lot of good men out there. A lot of times, they talk about
fire. The Kosher Clinician.